There we go. That only took ages. Oh my god, that really sucked. Yeah. Let's just make sure, because it seems like maybe, just maybe. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any issue, as far as I can tell. For those of you who are in here, can you just make sure that we have our mic on? Because the bar that normally moves isn't moving. Just going to make sure real quick.
I can go and look on the YouTube thing real quick.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Let us maybe try. We'll check it. And if it's not working, then that sucks. And we'll try it again. Oh, it is working. Okay, so we're good. All right. Let's rewind, do our intro. Okay, so hey guys, I'm Christian.
What's going on?
Amazing with baseball.
I'm Noah, the sidekick to this amazingness to baseball.
Right. We're this amazing duo.
Dynamic.
So we have a couple announcements that we wanted to make. So thank you guys so much for all the views. You guys really seemed to like the last one, which was nice. It was refreshing to see that we have some fans.
Yeah, the numbers are definitely up on the last one. I like it. A little confidence boost to us too.
For sure.
Seeing the triple digits on the views, it was pretty cool to see.
Especially since we're putting some money into this now, so like
it's an investment
outside of the betting. Don't worry, it's not just betting.
It's not self-benefiting always.
Oh yes. So some of the other announcements that we have is, so here's round 2. The other hat that I won. I love this color. I love the Marlins. Their logo. I think they have hands down the best color style. And if I had a jersey there, I think I'd die.
Yeah, I seem to be a fan, honestly. From my colorblind perspective, I mean,
like
obviously I see a variation. It looks decent.
Like it's black with the light blues and like the little tinges of orange. It really screams, Florida to me. More so than the Rays colors. Anyways.
The Sunshine City.
We also have, you can probably see that we're a little clearer to see. We have a new camera. So it was a decent amount of money and that kind of sucked. But you know what? Good cameras, good quality, better videos. That's always important.
It's for the future. We're preparing for it. I mean, you do it now and we'll toss. Do it now, get over with, and we'll be set for a while. Got a good mic set up, some decent lighting, some sound stuff around.
Everything's all set up now. We're pretty much good. We just got to put something on the wall. Yeah. Third little announcement: we have a Patreon. If you want to go and take a look, it's just called Baseball Blitz. It's just, if you feel like supporting us, we
really appreciate it.
We would really appreciate it. You don't have to. Don't feel pressured. It's whatever.
Just peer pressure.
Yeah, 100% peer pressure. But if you guys are interested at all, we do have it, and you could support us. Give a little money. We give you a little extra content outside of just the podcast. But speaking of extra content, the last piece of information that we have so much is we're going to be me specifically, I'm going to be doing little 2-3 minute bites every single day starting after today of just baseball news. I can't say that I'm going to do a specific time in the day. Maybe I'll do in the afternoon, whether it's because of work or school or just because information doesn't come out till later.
Right.
I'll be doing it. I got a little lapel mic. Going to be using the camera and just doing little snippets. It'll be unedited, just like this is, and be throwing out some information here and there of some good quality stuff.
Right. During the week, there's actually quite a bit that happens, especially with a lot of signings that are going to be coming up lately. There's a lot of big names, and sometimes we feel like, this big signing happens on a Monday, waiting till Sunday. I don't think that's really justifiable. Usually you're already informed about it, so he's stepping up to the plate here. No pun intended there. And
I mean, it's important anyway, because you know what? It doesn't really matter if we kind of cover some of the same content here as during the week. Obviously, I'm not going to be covering everything. When that means that during the podcast, we can go in depth on some other things outside of maybe what happened during the week. We could always go back in the future, maybe some predictions for next year or whatever. So that's always fun. And also, there was another piece of news that I was trying to think of because I had it, but Oh, and we did a poll about how long you guys wanted it, and you guys said 40 minutes. So we're going to try and do 40 minutes this time. If it's like a tad over, like within 5 minutes, don't judge us. That's just like a big change from an hour to an hour and 5 minutes to 45.
Yeah, 20 minutes actually is quite a bit of
It's
detail.
it's quite a bit, but I think this time we'll be able to manage it just because there isn't any betting to do. There isn't
There's no games, not to mention. There's no
yeah,
series to recap. It's gonna be strictly, well, for the next little bit, kind of just signings and like player movement
yeah, pretty much. So I guess let's get into it.
for sure.
So the first piece of news that we need to do is well, the end of the World Series. It's already been talked about. People have watched it, but you know what? We want to add our little bit of smooth talking to it. So Game 5, LA won both. Well, spoiler: LA won both games, and they won the World Series.
Right.
Game 5 was won 4-2. Max Muncy hit a incredible towering moonshot, and he stared at it as if it was, and it was fantastic. He didn't do any bat flip though. I was a little upset about that. I think those are fantastic.
A little bit of celebration, a little bit extra. It's a little insult to the pitch, throw a bat on it. I always like to see this sometimes, give the player a little stare down to the pitcher.
Yeah,
That really gets in their head, and you can honestly see like, it happens time and again. Like even when you get hit by a pitch, you stare down the pitcher. Gets the tempers start to flare after that,
Oh,
and the
it's
emotion starts
it's
to really
crazy.
come out.
It was funny too because Bellinger actually seemed to be more excited about it when it happened
Yeah.
than Muncy was. So I guess supportive teammate. That's all right. Margot tried to steal home. Now that one was very weird for me. I kind of would never have expected that. And then I read an article that was saying that even the coaches didn't signal him to do that. He just did it on his own volition.
Player inflicted, taking the game to his own. I mean, it didn't work out.
It didn't work out, and you know what? It probably could have been the difference between it being a close game to it being 4-2.
At the end of the day, if you look at it statistically, they still wouldn't have made a difference, even though they did lose by 2 runs.
Yeah.
So that one run didn't really make a difference, but that's one less out to work with. So if he stole home safely, giving them that extra run, that's one less out they have to worry for future in the lineup. So I mean, something could have happened later on too. That doesn't really get to be brought into the spotlight because it just doesn't happen. We don't know what happens. But I mean, I don't know. Gutsy decision, didn't work out the way it was planned to.
Yeah, it really didn't work out that way. And I mean, Kershaw's already used to people trying to steal home on him, especially because he's a left-handed pitcher. So
right.
And he caught him both times that it happened. First time was on Carlos Gomez of the Brewers at the time. So good for him. He's good at doing that, and it's impressive for a left-handed pitcher.
It's hard to see over. It's like it does vice versa for a right-handed pitcher trying to pick someone off at first base. You have to look over their shoulder, whereas if you're a lefty pitcher,
then they have to step off too.
You're just staring right at the guy, and you can just quick throw at him. But coming home, it's a little bit more important, obviously, because the run's coming in. So good on Kershaw to get the out, and good on Will Smith too. It wasn't a very good throw by any means.
Yeah, it wasn't a fantastic throw. It was a bit off, but you know what? The fact that Kershaw got it there as fast as he did was impressive. And then Will Smith is a pretty good defensive catcher, so
he made a solid play on
good on him. And Kershaw is now the number 1 strikeout leader of postseason cumulative stat,
passing our guy Justin Verlander.
Yeah, it's impressive. 207 strikeouts. And I guess it's fair to say that some of that's a little bit more because he's been in so many postseasons and they've had deep runs every single time. For the most part, last year was a bit of an exception as well. But it's very impressive to see because the fact that that he can have that, and he's only 32, I think. He's still got plenty of years. He's got plenty of years, and he passed Verlander, who's I think he's got at least 4 years on him, I think. And Verlander's been to the postseason many times as well. It's not like he's been there only a few times but just struck out a lot.
He's had some good playoff runs.
He has,
but he was with Houston. He is with Houston right now, but with the surgery, it would have been interesting to see how Verlander would have kept his stats up had he been pitching this postseason. Seeing how deep Houston did go as well.
Yeah,
I think you would have seen obviously Verlander still be on top, and then I don't know. It would have been interesting to see how much of a difference they would have had though. Who would have played better in the postseason?
Yeah, and now it's to the point where I see him retiring in the next couple of years, especially after a surgery like Tommy John. And at his age, he's made his money. He's won a World Series whether it was tainted or not. But he's done all these accomplishments. He's hit the 3,000 strikeouts. He's going to the Hall of Fame. So like
100%.
what else does he have really to do other than, I guess, accumulate more stats?
For the love of the game, I think Verlander is very much so. He's not really a money guy. He's definitely for the game. I could see him pitching until he physically cannot pitch anymore.
Oh, for sure.
But there comes a time when a guy's career just wants to settle down and focus on the family and just have a good time in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final thing I had for Game 5, but it kind of goes to Game 6 too. Randy Arozarena has like all the cumulative hitting records for postseason. It's pretty impressive, home runs. I think he had just hits in general was the top 2. He was in the top 5 or something like that for OPS over the postseason. All these incredible things. Do I 100% take it as it was? No, just because he did get at minimum 2 extra games because he faced the Jays and he got 2 home runs. So at the very least, he would have just tied. So it's kind of something to think about.
Right. It's super controversial, I think, with a lot of these records this year. Not to mention with the shortened season, how that would have played out if they had the full 162 games to prepare for this, or they were just peaking. Like this is kind of mid-season form, nearly it's about a third of the way in. It's not real. They're literally hitting mid-season stride versus the playoffs at the very end. So they don't have the exhaustion. They don't have the injuries wearing on them. So it's a completely different ball game on to how they're playing. And then with the extra 2 games to like the wild card, that typically wouldn't have happened in a regular postseason bracket. There's a lot of controversy in the records, but I mean, at the end of the day, moral of the story, he played amazing.
He did. He played very amazing. The only issue that Rays need to think about is that I think he's going to be like Aristides Aquino of the year before, where he went on a tear for a small stretch. That was less than a month. The postseason was October.
Right.
And he hit those 10 home runs, which was fantastic. Aristides Aquino had, I don't know what it was. It was like 10 home runs in 14 games or something like that. It was something ridiculous.
A lot.
And then he went to trash. He went terribly, and he got tossed to AAA and all that kind of stuff. So
right, the downslope. It would be curious to see how he does next season if he can carry into the momentum going into the following season. That will really be the true story on to see if he's legit. But he played super well the entire postseason through. He was solid the whole way. Didn't really have many like slip ups or inconsistencies. He was fairly consistent the whole way through, considering he set all these batting records.
Yeah, exactly. And then Game 6, LA won 3-1, which, that game was filled with a lot of controversy. So to start off, Seager won World Series MVP. That one kind of felt right. Although, to me, I would have chose Kershaw because he had some great pitching. I think he only allowed 3 runs in his 2 starts, which, is especially because it's breaking the whole kind of stereotype he had where, playoff Kershaw, he chokes, but he didn't choke at all. I don't think he may have had 1 bad start, and it was because he was on short rest. So it wasn't like it was,
it wasn't a good setup.
No,
he came off short rest. He pitched not very well. He was left in probably a bit too long. That's all. That's a bit of a manager decision too.
Yeah, that was more on Roberts than him. And I mean, that was the complaint I've always had, was that it was Dave Roberts. It wasn't him.
Yeah,
because he's always been good. If he gets enough rest and if he gets taken out before, you can tell he's gassed. Because you can tell. It's so easy to tell.
Yeah, overall, he pitched very well during the postseason. If he won MVP, I don't think a lot of people, obviously, we wouldn't be surprised. Like, he was a well-suited candidate. Same with Betts. He also played fairly well throughout the postseason.
And Muncy was also up there too.
Right. But I think Seager kind of stuck out for a little bit, just with his consistency and his overall dominance of
this
the World
entire
Series.
postseason too.
Right.
He was like the 8th player that won the World Series and Championship Series MVP. I mean,
yeah.
How
can you not pick him at the end of the day?
Good on him, right? Mm-hmm. So Snell was actually incredible. His pitching was fantastic. It was like 5 and a third innings, I think, or 2/3. I think it was a third. I'll say it was just a third from now on. The bullpen, they didn't look good this entire World Series. So
no.
I say Cash made a poor choice, but I don't think it was necessarily that pulling Snell was a bad choice. I think it was just going to the bullpen. Not that they could really go to anybody else, but it was just kind of a tough decision because
all it was prep for Game 7. I think that when you're playing a Game 7 of the World Series, you're going to throw everything you have on the line. Short rest, one day, it doesn't matter. You're going in, you're pitching an inning or two, especially with Snell. He was going to pitch Game 7, almost guaranteed.
For sure.
So I understand the mindset of pulling him early, saving him for a Game 7. But the thing is, I don't think a lot of people understand is that you need to get to the Game 7. You need to get there first to even use it. So what? Maybe you pitch him an extra inning and you play him later on in the game just for that little extra rest. You need to make sure you're actually getting to Game 7.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing, especially because a lot of people were using the idea that third time in the batting order, it's generally true that when a pitcher goes third time in the batting order, they usually do worse. That's kind of a general, and it's usually a given. However, for Snell for the past 2 years, that has been opposite the case. He's actually, I was watching a video, I think, it was something. Anyway, it was really impressive to watch. Over the past couple of years, he's actually been better the third time around than, say, the second or sometimes the first time around. So a little bit questionable, but in the end, I blame Cash for going to Nick Anderson specifically because he was like one of the worst in the bullpen right now. So
not that they had a good bullpen.
They weren't doing fantastic. They have the best bullpen, but they were doing the worst in the postseason. And then the fact that they went to the worst in the worst didn't help them.
No, poor decision.
And their bats didn't help. Their bats really they were quiet. So
a measly 1 run in the game.
And it was like right at the beginning. I think it was the second batter. It was Brandon Lau's home run, and then Lowe, whatever. That was a solo shot, and that was it. Their offense is, well, I knew from the start their offense is terrible to watch.
They're a very defensive team. They're not going to give up many errors, and the run count are usually low. Like if you look at the Dodgers, they scored 4 in Game 5 and 3 in Game 6. Overall, that's not bad. It's not amazing by any means, but it's definitely leaving the door open for the batters to step up and actually win a game, which there was no presence of.
No, and well, it was already known from the start that the Dodgers had their pitching was somewhat comparable to the Rays pitching, especially because they had already been doing not that great in the postseason relieving wise. So they were actually kind of neck and neck there. But the Dodgers, they scored, I think it was on average this season, a run more per game. It was like 5.8 runs per game to 4.8. And not that 4.8 is bad, but it's not near the top, not even close.
No. I mean, obviously, both teams definitely had their pros and cons. The Dodgers, 1-9, going to be a solid hitting team. They're going to score runs. It's inevitable. It's just if you can score more than them, which obviously Tampa is not the strongest for their bats. They're known more so for their defense. It wasn't really a fair matchup to begin with, not to mention with the extreme pay difference and the lack of superstar players on the Rays. I mean, don't get me wrong, Snell, phenomenal pitcher. But you need to have more to support that. You need to have your bats.
And I mean, Morton was great this year. Glasnow was not great in the postseason. He was pretty bad, actually. Other than getting the strikeouts, he has. And it's funny because Foolish Baseball actually did a video on it. Go watch that, guys. His stuff's incredible. But he has had incredible stuff like his curveball to fastball ratio and how fast he throws them and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. Spin rate, amazing. But it's like he doesn't know how to use it, maybe, or like he doesn't know how to position it properly, like bad location. Because
also hitter matchups too. You're gonna pitch. Obviously, every single hitter out there is gonna have their wheelhouse. It's avoiding the wheelhouse at all costs, especially high inside where a batter can turn on a ball and launch it. That's like a well-known no-go unless he has like a fast swing where he's not gonna be able to get a hold of it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely some location issues with him that obviously you need some extra coaching and maybe some more preparation.
He needs to go to the Astros. They have a great pitching coach setup. They've always been fantastic for pitching. Either there or I would argue to say the Twins, just because it was like they turned a switch on Maeda, which was incredible. But
right, you're seeing a lot of players emerge from like these type of teams that it's like they're not necessarily a winning heavy team, especially with Minnesota. Historically not the best team out there, but they do produce some solid pitchers.
And surprisingly enough, that was something I was actually going to say was that where we were talking that the hitting matchup wasn't fantastic for the Rays, I think the Twins probably either the Twins or possibly something like the Yankees would have been their best chance to beat the Dodgers because uh, to beat them, you needed a bat heavy team and like average pitching. It didn't need to, I don't think their pitching needed to be fantastic because I think the Dodgers were going to score runs anyways.
Yeah, you're just almost wasting money when you're using like extremely good pitchers against the Dodgers lineup because they're going to hit off anyone.
Yeah.
Like you got Bellinger, you got Seager, you got Betts. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, they have
huge bat heavy players where you just need to match that with the Yankees. I mean, you got like Judge, you have Stanton.
If they stay healthy.
That is very dependent. That's a completely new variable that they have to sort out somehow.
Yeah.
But you need a team like that that's just going to match the bats. The pitching at the end of the day, it's almost like a home run derby for these two teams. But I mean, the door was open for Tampa. Only like I said, only 7 combined runs in those last 2 games were scored by LA. So the door was open. They just couldn't capitalize on it.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Try to quicken the pace. So a few little informations that happened throughout the week. 2 teams have new managers. Back from retirement is Tony La Russa for the White Sox, which I don't know. The only thing that I think about that is that people need to shut up saying that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame now and they need to wait to re-enter him in. I think that's kind of BS because he could go garbage again with the White Sox and his legacy is still set. So
it'll be tainted for sure. You know, if the White Sox have a solid foundation, adding him may or may not be what they need to put them over. I mean, phenomenal manager, 100%. He's
but maybe not
future
for
Hall
this
of Famer.
Maybe
no. And then
he already is a Hall of Famer, actually.
Right. It's just a tainted legacy if it goes south.
Yeah, it could definitely be a tainted legacy, and people could look back at that and be like, "Well, that was garbage." But luckily, the White Sox are already like a way above average team, so
it'd be hard to sink that ship.
Yeah, unless they go like 500 or something like that or less. You know what? It'll be seen as at least at minimum moderate success.
Yeah, if they miss the playoffs, there would be some serious questions raised.
There'll be some axing for sure. And then the Tigers now have AJ Hinch, former Astros garbage can banger. I think it's a good choice, though. I think it's a really good choice because he's very pitcher development friendly, and the Detroit Tigers have some pitchers that could really use that. So I think it's overall a very good decision overall. I said,
in the grand spectrum of, you take the garbage can smacking versus his experience and his knowledge, you value that more. Obviously, I don't think he's going to do it again. He'd be kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But I mean, you never know. But at the end of the day, the Tigers have potential. Don't get me wrong. There are some players that could develop with the organization and really turn the whole team around with the right coaching.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's obviously some young guns out there that have serious potential and some solid draft picks they picked up as well. I definitely think they have potential, but it's going to come down to are they going to be placed properly? Are they going to be coached properly? It's almost like training like a minor league team to a sense. It's kind of different.
Yeah. I just wanted to share that we're doing this a little more, and then the third thing that is happening or that happened this week is that Steve Cohen bought 95% of the Mets from the Wilpons, which is good because at least for the Mets, because the Wilpons were stingy, and then when they weren't stingy, they were not stingy on the wrong players. So I mean, this is definitely, and he's Cohen's an actual fan of baseball. People have known that for a while. So it just makes sense. And now they have talks that this family might buy the Angels if they ever sell. So now not last thing, but like the biggest thing that we have really to talk about is all the options. Man, there's a lot of options.
We have a pretty big list here.
The first thing that needs to be mentioned is, holy crap, the amount of declined options. People really don't want to pay these people money. Not that that's a bad thing, because I don't think some of them deserve nearly as much as their contract says. But it's a lot. It's a lot. There was only, I believe, let me just read because I have it all written down. There were 7. There were 7 that were actually exercised. And they kept their option,
which
and
is rare because it's built into the contract for these type of reasons. And it's always like the last resort, to give them their option to resign and stay a part of the team. But I don't know what it is. Maybe
I don't know
like
what it is because for some of, or at least for, I think it was all but maybe one or two. All the ones that were declined by the club, not by the player.
right.
Not saying that they were always club options. Some of them were mutual options, but once one of them declines, then
It's a
then it's
two-way
axed.
street. Both parties obviously have to agree because,
Yeah.
well, if one doesn't, then they're just not going to play. Like that's just how it works. It's just crazy to see how many people how many players actually decline. Like well, obviously most were done by the club, but it's almost like outrageous how many declined.
Yeah, it was at one point. It was before I think there was 3 or 4 more added on each side. It was 40 declined to 4 accepted, until a couple were added, like I said. And some of the ones that were accepted weren't. I don't think were necessarily because the player did good this year or because they wanted the player for that. They just wanted to. They were just like a key piece that that brought fans.
Right.
So I guess we'll quickly go through some of them anyways. So for the ones that are exercised, I'm going to read through my handy dandy notes that I did post on Instagram. So the White Sox, they exercised Garcia's option, which I think was a good choice. He is a great piece. The Marlins exercised, I believe it's Starling Marte. Starling. I'm going to say it's Starling Marte.
I think it's Starling or Sterling. I think
I thought it was either Starling or Ketel because there's 2 Martes.
Right.
I think it's Starling. I'm going to say it's Starling because
one of them.
I don't know. It's one of them. They're both decent, so it's either way. That was a great choice. I mean, he can be their star.
You focus the team around him and just build around. He can seriously lead the team. He is a phenomenal player. I think you're going to see him headlining. Obviously, them a lot more than
them's Marlins, man. Them's Marlins.
Whatever you say.
They're going to be a winning team soon. I think they're going to be serious contenders. The Yankees exercised Britain, but that was for not this year, but next year. For $14 million. Holy moly. I can't say he was worth that. I can't remember if he played much this year. I think he was injured a lot.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I don't think he's necessarily worth that this year. Or even next year. I think that would be split into 2 years would be all right.
Right. Baseball's contracts are weird. You're gonna get the extremes highs and the extreme lows. 14 is an oddball number only because there's not many players that get paid around that area. Just because it's hard to be that type of a player in a sense where you're gonna usually you sign for a lot of money or very little money,
barely anything at all.
So I don't know. It's just a weird number.
And the fact that I think it's bad to say, but I don't think that relievers should be earning max money like that. This is middle ground money, and I don't think they should be getting that. I think relievers kind of have a cap at around 10 million.
Agreed. There's no it's hard to be because when you're a relieving pitcher, you're almost being trained to become a starter or a closer. It's kind of just a weird kind of hybrid position because you need to be able to last usually about an inning and a half, 2 innings around
and
there.
And then you play that 60 times, 60 to 80 times out of a 162 game season, so half the games. I don't know.
It's just weird.
It's tough. It's tough to say. The Blue Jays, this will be a great comment to make, is that they're one of the few teams that I found that if they had more than one decision, both their decisions were easy or all their decisions were easy. We'll get to why their decline was easy, but their exercised option was Rafael Dolis. He was one of their top 3 relievers this year. So, I mean, between him and Romano, they got, once Romano's healed anyway, they got plenty covered for Giles because now he's gone for Tommy John as well.
Right.
And he's hit the free agency. That really sucked for him. That really sucked. They shouldn't have brought him in, but I think that might be partially his fault too.
Yeah, not to mention getting hurt obviously is going to taint obviously his next contract. He didn't really have a chance to shine like he did in Houston where he was lights out. Coming to Toronto, only pitched maybe a handful of games. And then obviously
last year he was all right.
Yeah, what was it? A blister on his finger or sort of like that. Then he had to get I don't know. For the rest of the year.
He was injured a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt his next contract. You're going to see him go cheap.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Reds, I believe this was a player option, but this he did good anyway. So Castellanos, he accepted his contract, or they accepted his contract. It was still 3 years left, and it was like 48 million. So like 13 million a year, or not 13 million. Geez, it's like 16. Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth keeping him for another 3 years because he's fantastic and he's a decent name and great bat. So the Indians they had a bunch of contracts and they only kept one. They kept Roberto Perez, their catcher. Good choice, maybe. He was good last year. He was all right this year. I think they need to maybe rethink that one. Obviously, they can't, but maybe he could be a trade piece. Maybe that's where he comes in.
That is possible. I don't think he's overly expensive either.
No, I don't think so. I think he was under 5 million because they originally just signed him thinking he was going to be an average catcher, but he ended up being a great defensive catcher.
Right, and I mean at 5 million, that's relatively cheap for a catcher, anyways.
We'll look it up.
Sure. While he's doing that, signing a player like him is good for the organization because if he's also a familiar face, he doesn't have to adapt to a new city, new team, new managers, new owners. That's usually pretty hard on a player to do unless they're pretty familiar with it being moved around, especially at a catcher position where you have to build your relationship with a pitcher. It's one of the only positions really where
he gets paid cheap.
How much is it?
It's like average annual value of 2.2 million.
Wow. Honestly, I like the signing. I mean, I know you're a bit iffy on it, but as a catcher, you need to become familiar with your pitcher. That's
true.
That's why Tolly Cott for Dickey. That's why Aaron Sevier, all these players, they're catching for specific pitchers because of their relationship
and I think
and how they catch them.
I think it helps him too because of how well Cleveland pitches.
Right.
And I'm sure they believe that at least a good chunk of that is because of him.
Yeah, no,
which I would agree. I would agree. I think it's okay, but I think they should have. I don't know. And then the Cubs accepted their Rizzo.
Oh, that's obvious.
That was obvious, but at the same time, I feel like that one was because his contract, I think this year was also something like 14 million.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't think that based on this year, he was worth that much money.
No, he was definitely kind of a letdown.
He really had a tough year. And it was funny because a lot of Cubs that were fantastic the year before had a terrible year this year. And I think that it's going to reflect next year as well. I think Baez isn't going to be fantastic this upcoming year.
Bryant
ended up coming back a little bit, but
not
a ton.
But it's like you take their World Series team. What was that, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah. Okay. So you take. Everyone models typically when they win the World Series, they always look at that in like the grand scheme of things. They always relate it to the current team it is. It's easy to do that because you see them winning the World Series and you see familiar names that come back and you expect them to do the same thing. And when they don't, it's disappointing.
It's very disappointing.
But a lot of key players that people don't realize leave. When Seager does decide to leave the Dodgers, everyone's going to be like, why? And everyone's going to be confused because he won MVP this year. Obviously, you see it in other sports. Joe Flacco won MVP of the Super Bowl back with Baltimore many years ago. Now he's in Denver making his backup. He's garbage now. And it's like
Kawhi Leonard, he won Finals MVP and then went to the Clippers and then he was trash.
And then they lost.
He was good, but he was trash. But anyway,
you see it in other sports
too.
too.
Yeah, different sports. Same scenario. It just sucked for the Cubs because they were the best team in the NL Central, like second best team in the NL, or third because the top two were both NL West teams. Right. But I mean, even if you were third, fourth, fifth, whatever, and then lose to the first round to the Marlins, then you kind of got to think what's wrong, right? So
yeah. Also, there's also, not to mention age is obviously factoring in. There's some injuries that occur as well. It's very, like I said, it's very easy to model a team that looks very familiar on paper. Like you see Rizzo, you see Baez, you see Bryant.
Contreras, you got Hayward, you got Darvish, fantastic. Hendricks, even Alec Mills, who was unknown before this year, he threw a no-hitter. Right,
exactly. Like I said, it's obviously easy to model with these names, correlating it to the World Series, and then seeing them not do the greatest. It's hard to judge just based on so many key details. But they're still respectable. They still did decent this year.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of a letdown though.
Yeah. So I'm going to go quickly through the list. I'm just going to say team and then the last names. I'm not going to comment on them. And then I'm going to go through some of the ones that I did want to comment on, because there are a few that I do want to comment on, but some of them are unimportant because they're whatever. So the Nationals declined Eaton, Kendrick, Thames, and Sanchez. Cubs declined Lester. D-backs declined Rondon, Guerra, and Leak. Mariners declined Gordon and Graveman, but Graveman re-signed immediately after. Mets declined Ramos, Frazier, and Chirinos. Braves declined O'Day and Culberson. Cardinals declined Wong. Rockies for Murphy. Twins with Romo. Cubs with Descalso. Pirates with Archer. Yankees, they declined Happ, which was obvious. Gardner, which less obvious because he was, their hometown guy. And keep in mind, not all these were declined. Some of them were outrighted to AAA, and then some of them declined their assignment. So then they go to free agency. That was the same for Tommy Canley and a few others. I can't remember which ones.
It's crazy how Gardner, that one was declined. He's been with them for forever.
But his contract was kind of ridiculous. It was like $10 million or something.
They were literally paying for his name and his relationship to New York.
Yeah. And I wasn't even going to talk about that one. Rangers declined Kluber. Rays declined Morton and Zanino. Jays declined Anderson. That one I'll talk about later, as I said I would. Indians declined both Brad Hand and both of the Santanas, Carlos and Domingo. White Sox declined Encarnacion and Gonzalez. Brewers declined Braun, Gayorko, Sogard, and Gamel. Phillies declined Neris, Phelps, and Robertson. Astros outright waivers for Osuna. The Marlins declined Kinsler, and the Dodgers declined Jimmy Nelson. So, lots of different names. Lots of them are very well known. I know so many of these. Some of them were fantastic last year, and now they just got declined.
Yeah, not to mention going back to literally 5 minutes ago talking about the Cubs World Series. You see John Lester, who was phenomenal during that. Now he's being declined. He's going out to free agency. It's crazy to see these names.
I see him as a Red Sox. I can never see him as a Cub. I mean, he was with the Cubs when they won the World Series. I know. I still don't see that.
No, that's understandable. He was really well.
Because he won in Boston too, so I guess
lucky guy.
Yeah, won two different cities. So the first one I want to talk about was with the Braves and O'Day. That one was a shocker. I mean, he is getting a bit old. He's 37 now, and when the season starts, I believe he'll be 38. But for $10 million, he was a top arm this year.
He was.
So relieving wise, he was probably top. I'd put him in my top 10. Low top 10, of course, but he would be in my top 10 for sure. There was a little confusing there. Another one that was really shocking to me was Cardinals declined Wong.
That's pretty crazy, honestly.
He's a Gold Glover of last year and probably this year too. And they just declined him for, I think it was 13, 14 million as well. I love that so many of them are at that amount of money. But
I know we would have just said that there's not that many people, but when we go to look at it, there actually is,
and it's so strange. But yeah, I think his contract was worth it, but clearly they didn't. Many teams will find use for his high-level defense, average bat, average to below average. He isn't like crazy bad, but he isn't good. So for Braden, the Pirates finally did something right by declining Archer. That contract's gone now. That
was a hefty price tag.
It was a hefty price tag
for not a good player.
And it brought a lot of bad memories because, I mean, look at it. They traded him, or they got him for Glasnow from the Rays.
Yeah.
Meadows for the Rays. And Bruce, was it Brousseau or was it Phillips? One of the guys that did great this postseason, had a big moment.
Maybe it's Tampa. Maybe they just develop awesome players because when Chris Archer played for Tampa, he was good. That's why the Pirates gave up so much for him, thinking that they could build their team around Archer. Comes to Pittsburgh, garbage.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they have good developing so that they make these players into stars, but they never fully put it together. Maybe, who knows? I'm not sure because they've had so many years where they've had a lot of help. They've had James Shields as when they were pitching. They had Evan Longoria. They had David Price. They've had so many crazy good names that became good in their system, but they never.
They never capitalized.
They never capitalized.
Maybe Twins, it's just the lack of. I don't think they have enough players to build it around.
No, I don't think so either. The Twins declined Romo again. He was a top reliever. and he's a personality. People love him.
Right.
I love him. He's great. I think he won with the Giants the World Series back in 2014. He was fantastic, and I mean he's stayed fantastic for almost every year since. He's only had I think 1 or 2 bad years in between there, and even one of them was only like average. So it's whatever, right? It's maybe they're hoping that he'll sign back for less. Kind of unfair on him because he was fantastic, but that's whatever. The Rangers declined Kluber. That was a good choice, although it sucks for him because to think that only 3-4 years ago, I'm pretty sure he did win a Cy Young. I'm pretty sure, and he was top 3,
if not nominated for sure.
Yeah,
he was
top 3 at least 2 or 3 times in like a span of 2 or 3 years, and then I'm pretty sure he did win the 2015 one.
Yeah, it was around there.
2015 or 2016. Nonetheless, I feel bad for him for that because his contract was like $19 million. He didn't get to play a ton because he was injured, but you could tell that when he did play, he wasn't doing fantastic. Maybe it's just not him. Maybe he's having a little trouble. He's trying to find himself a little bit.
Right.
The Rays declined Morton. That one was odd for me. I understand why they declined Zunino because he's average to below average on defense. He's terrible bat, and they're paying him like decent
amount of money.
Decent money for what you would expect a much better catcher for.
Right.
So it was very worth it to get rid of him. But Morton, I don't know. I get it. He's also 37 now or something like that. He's on the upper ends of 30, so he is getting up there in age. But he's still pitched incredibly in the postseason, especially, which is that's the most recent data we can use.
Right, and so, a pitcher, you can pitch into your late 30s, and depending on your style of pitching, early 40s, which we've seen many times. But with a pitcher at 37, there's still life to him.
There's declining that. To him.
I don't know because.
And the sad thing is that he even said in an interview that if he got declined, that there's a chance he might just retire. And he's still doing fantastic. So it's sad to see that he might just end up retiring when he's still got more in him.
Right.
The Jays, they declined Chase Anderson. So Jays fan, obviously I know this specific contract. I know Dolis' specific contract. Dolis was $1.5 million. And obviously you would accept that when he's a very good reliever and paying him nothing.
Right.
And he was a risk-free kind of guy to give him a small contract.
Yep.
Anderson, on the other hand, was not a poor choice because they traded for him.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. Anyways.
Did he come from New York?
No, I think he was a Brewer.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure he was a Brewer. Yeah. $9.5 million. Yeah, I would have declined that pretty quick too. I mean, he wasn't good this year. He has had good years, but this year was not it. He definitely needs to maybe fix his stuff on another team, and maybe he'll find his way there. But the Jays, I understand why they declined that.
Yep, it's a hefty price tag for average pitcher. He had a good, like you said, he had a good past
2 starts, but this year was not it.
No, especially in pitching, you want to when you're spending your money, you have to be very careful with your pitchers because that is guiding your defense and how many runs you let up a game.
For sure.
I don't think $9.5 million is worth him.
And especially because you knew that for the Jays, Hyunjin Ryu was their number 1. He is the best. So you knew he was going to do good. And I think he surpassed even our expectations of how good he was going to do.
Right.
And then, you kind of just expected, okay, so we have all these different pitchers that we signed for some easy contracts, minus Tanner Roark for his terrible contract.
Yeah.
Hoping that at least one of them did good. But because there was very little that did good other than Taijuan Walker the second half, it made it very blatant that contract was bad. That contract was bad.
Right.
Tanner Roark, if he doesn't get traded, it's going to be terrible for the Jays. Stuff like that. The Indians, that really sucks for them. They're tearing their team apart. And I'm so upset by it because they were a contender and they have done fantastic. And they're getting rid of one of the top closers. It seems like a lot of teams are getting rid of their closers or their relievers, even though they did great. I guess it's just because they were signed for too much.
Yeah.
Even though Brad Hand wasn't. His contract was acceptable. It was under $10 million.
Yeah, Cleveland's departure on a lot of their closers and relievers. It's weird because Cleveland was always kind of known for like their batting. You had Francisco Lindor.
Carlos Santana was fantastic, and now he's just been declined.
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what Cleveland's kind of doing with all their pieces here. It'll be interesting to see.
Maybe they're trying to do a rebuild without people knowing.
Maybe. I mean, you never know. But to see how free agency works with Cleveland, if they do make a splash, it'll be interesting to see how they spend their money, because obviously it's not going to be with their relievers and closers unless they're just going to try and bat their way out of every game. I don't know. It's definitely something to note.
Yeah, for sure. We've almost hit the 45-minute mark, but listen, we'll go for just like another minute or two because we have just a couple teams left. It'll probably be shorter next time because we were just having some audio issues there. So like within them, chop off another minute or two, and that's probably what this actual time was.
Right.
So the Phillies, they're blowing up their bullpen, but for good reason. They had the worst bullpen this year out of any team, and probably I think it was like the second worst of all time in terms of ERA.
Jeez.
Holy crap, they were so bad. So don't blame them. They're just getting rid of all of them.
Yep. No, I would just clean house with them as well.
Yeah. Start from the beginning. Start
for
fresh. Sure. And then the last one was the Astros. They did the outright waivers for Osuna, which shocking, not shocking. He had an injury. He's been doing great. Not this year because he didn't play, but the years before he was fantastic. I mean, he had the assault
on his girlfriend, I believe.
Yeah, and that was unfortunate because I think he would have been great for the Jays. The Jays would have kept him, but I think he's going to find a team pretty easy because he's a great reliever. He's never really had any issues outside of maybe an occasional injury here or there. He's incredibly young. One of the few young free agents this year, guys. So teams pick him up, please, somewhere.
Toronto?
Yeah, please. We need more relievers. But it's hopefully he does find a place because that's shocking to me that they got rid of him. He was fantastic. So
yeah, you saw him in like 2015, 2016 playoffs with the Jays, and he was lights out, honestly.
And he stayed lights out. He was lights out in 2017 with the Astros, even because again, I don't believe that the garbage cans help the pitchers, but that's whatever.
He was good before, so I don't think you could take it away from him that he was.
Yeah, it's tough to say that he was altered by it.
Exactly.
But yeah, he was good, so I think he deserves a place.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that's it, guys. We'll do another one next week, as we always do. And thank you guys again for all the views and watching our stuff. Now we need some subscribers, guys.
Yeah,
keep it up.
Much appreciated. Obviously, free agency only lasts so long. So if there's any other topics you guys want to be covered, or like historical stuff,
or predictions, or if you guys like to see us do some early round betting on what we think the season's going to happen, or like if there's going to be a trade or whatever, we can do that too. I mean,
feed us whatever you honestly just want to see. We just want to make you guys happy, and obviously that'll correspond in some more viewership.
Yeah,
and definitely check out the Patreon. It's pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, and we'll be posting extra content there. Like I did actually ask if obviously because nobody had signed up at the time, I just put it there anyway, asking if getting a new camera was a good idea. And so I did. And then I posted it there saying I got it because I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, so definitely check it out.
You see extra content.
Yeah, and you see us next Sunday. And then make sure you check out Christian's little tidbits every day.
Maybe that's what I'll call it. Daily tidbits or something.
Tidbits.
Daily tidbits. All right. Well, signing off, guys. Thank you for watching.
Have a good one.